Chapter 2374, The Drucker Genetic Factor 1. Zhang Yi's words were like a deep water bomb dropped into a tranquil lake, unleashing a tidal wave of shock within the shadow space and in the minds of Brian and Da Vinci in the real world. Brian's dog eyes widened, his tongue hanging out as he muttered, 2 sheets of paper. Punching holes. Antimatter. Woof. I didn't catch most of that, but it sounds like you've stumbled upon something huge, boss. He instinctively sensed this was far more significant than even his favorite stashed meat bones. But compared to those silicone treats Fatty Sue gave him, it was a close call. Professor Da Vinci fell into a prolonged silence. Within his high-tech eyepiece, data streams flashed, collided, and reorganized at an unprecedented speed. He trembled as he hugged his arms. Though he tried to appear calm, his voice still carried an unmistakable thrill of disbelief. Genius. No, a divine revelation. If this model holds true, then most of the foundations of existing physics, energy theory, and even philosophy will need to be rewritten. What we've studied in the past may have been nothing more than a superficial layer covering the true reality. Zhang Yi, the value of what you've said far exceeds 1,000 epsilon origin. Exactly. Exactly. That's it. This could resolve so many paradoxes across scientific fields. The speed of light barrier exists because of the Creator's rules. But if we transcend the manifest universe and enter the true universe, we could surpass all these limitations. We could even traverse time through wormholes in the space-time continuum. Professor Da Vinci crouched in a corner, muttering to himself, appearing almost deranged. Only someone with Yang Xinxin's profound expertise in scientific research could grasp why he was so agitated. Though Zhou Qi, Yang Xia, and the others couldn't fully comprehend the deep mysteries, the solemn expressions on Da Vinci and Yang Xinxin's faces made it clear this was an absolutely revolutionary discovery, one that touched upon the very foundation of their existence. Amidst this atmosphere of shock and contemplation, a voice, cool, tinged with languor, yet resonating with boundless ancient wisdom, suddenly echoed deep within Zhang Yi's consciousness, reverberating clearly throughout the entire shadow space. You actually grasped this issue? Impressive. Zhang Yi smiled and lifted his head. The voice belonged to Ling. This ancient being of the Yihan tribe, the Knight of the Sword, existed within Zhang Yi's alternate space in human form. She rarely spoke of her own accord, responding only with cold detachment when Zhang Yi posed questions. Yet this time, she had taken the unusual step of initiating speech. Was this the influence of the origin of Xinglu's ethereal fragment? Her voice now carried a hint of undisguised surprise. Zhang Yi's heart stirred. He sank his consciousness into the section of the dimensional space specifically designated for Ling. There, the figure of the silver-haired, crimson-eyed maiden floated silently mid-air. Those eyes, seemingly having witnessed the rise and fall of countless ages, now fixed their unblinking gaze upon him. Ling, do you agree with my conclusion? Zhang Yi asked. Ling didn't answer directly. Instead, she spoke slowly. It's remarkable. Throughout countless eras, only a handful have touched upon the mystery of the foundation. The universe Kagago fashion is too perfect, so perfect that most beings become intoxicated by its superficial power, forgetting to question its source. Her tone shifted abruptly, growing stern and even cautionary, but Zhang Yi, you must understand. Peering into, let alone attempting to harness, the power of this universe is an exceedingly perilous path. That power is the foundation, the source, but it also embodies chaos and the undivided. Unlike the gentle, controllable ethereal fragments, the slightest misstep invites a backlash powerful enough to utterly shatter you and everything around you, reducing all to primordial particles. She stared intently at Zhang Yi, as if trying to see through his very soul. You must find the perfect equilibrium between these two forces, like walking a tightrope over an abyss, to truly master it, rather than be consumed by it. Right now, you've merely glimpsed the existence of that tightrope. You're still far from stepping onto it. Zhang Yi nodded earnestly. Ling's warning resonated with the dangerous premonition he'd felt earlier. Yet he felt no fear. Instead, his eyes flashed with an even brighter light. High risk often meant high reward, especially in this apocalyptic world where power was the foundation of survival. Suddenly, he recalled Samuel's theory of devouring power and linked it to Ling's mention of danger. A thought flashed through his mind, and he asked with a hint of teasing, "Ling, if I understand correctly, the Drucker Titan Samuel and his kind are following this path of crazily draining foundation power, right? No wonder they're so powerful and so insane. Are they trying to start their own thing, build a new universe, and refuse to recognize Kagago as the boss? Tisk tisk. No wonder every generation of humanity, from the first to our sixth, has had to band together to fight him. This is an outright attempt to overturn the fundamental laws set by the Creator." Ling fell silent for a moment upon hearing Zhang Yi's down-to-earth yet straight-to-the-point teasing. Her eternally impassive face seemed to twitch ever so slightly. She spoke slowly, "Your analogy is simple, yet in a way, it's not wrong. The Drucker divine race doesn't seek to return to the origin. They seek to find the meaning of their own existence, refusing to be observers of Kagago. They see Kagago's creation as shackles, as an illusion. And that indeed touches upon the Creator's forbidden taboo. Their destruction was inevitable." Zhang Yi grasped the crucial point in Ling's words. His teasing expression faded as he voiced the question that had long lingered in his mind, "Ling, what about us? Our sixth generation seems the weakest of all. Why does the Creator keep making humans weaker? Or is there some special purpose?" His choice of words was blunt. "To your ancient civilizations, we appear like infants just learning to walk. Did the Creator shape us, expecting such frail beings to eliminate the near-divine Drucker? What secret lies hidden within us?" This question caused every being within the shadow space to hold their breath. This was the ultimate question concerning the origin and destiny of their entire race. Ling fell into another prolonged silence, this time longer than any before. Within dimensional space, time itself seemed frozen, save for her silver strands of hair gently swaying in the silent currents of energy. Finally, she lifted her crimson pupil. Her gaze pierced through the barrier of the dimensional space, as if seeing into the deepest recesses of Zhang Yi's soul. Her voice was low and clear as she spoke, word by word, "Because deep within the genetic sequences of your 6 generations lies the genetic factor of the Drucker." Chapter 2375, The Drucker Genetic Factor 2. What? The words sent shockwaves through the air. Zhang Yi abruptly lifted his head. Though inwardly startled, he maintained a somewhat composed demeanor. He had already considered this possibility. Ancient civilizations' historical records described the Drucker Titans as such. They were frenzied and formidable, possessing an extraordinary tenacity for life. Even when the Creator exhausted every means, summoning glaciers that had remained unfrozen for millions of years, hurling meteors from the depths of the cosmos, unleashing cataclysmic floods, shifting continental plates, the Drucker people still persevered, clinging stubbornly to existence. No matter how many times, no matter how formidable a civilization the Creator fashioned, even if the Druckers were initially suppressed, they always fought back. This indomitable resilience, this tenacious vitality, felt strikingly similar to the 6th generation of humanity. Greed, tenacity, defiance. Wasn't this precisely the essence of Zhang Yi and his kind? Struggling desperately in the apocalypse, emerging time and again from the brink of extinction. Now, 2 ancient civilizations alone had been annihilated by Zhang Yi and his kind. If such a race were allowed to grow for billions of years, they would naturally become a source of apprehension for Kagago. They were the cancer cells of this universe. A collective gasp echoed through the shadow space. Professor Da Vinci's eyes widened in shock, but he quickly lowered his head in deep thought. "We are descendants of the Drucker? This is staggering." Brian leapt up, barking woof woof woof. But he froze abruptly. "Huh? You're descendants of the Drucker? What does that have to do with me? I'm a dog." Realizing this, he exhaled a long breath. "Damn it, I almost empathized with you lot." Show care covered her mouth, and Yang Xia's cup nearly slipped from her grasp. Even Yang Xinxin, usually expressionless, flinched slightly in her deep eyes. The sixth generation carries Drucker blood in their genes? This truth was so staggering it nearly shattered all their beliefs. They were tools the Creator used to purge rebellion, yet within them flowed the blood of rebels. Zhang Yi quickly regained his composure, his mind racing as countless clues began to connect. So, that's why I could absorb the Mad Falcon's origin relatively easily? And why I both resonated with and resisted Samuel's mental corruption? Why I could vaguely sense the power of this universe? Because we share the same origin? Ling affirmed Zhang Yi's speculation. Yes. You are contradictory entities, the Creator's most complex and daring creations. He forged the bloodline factors of his mortal enemies into new vessels. Perhaps to understand his adversaries, perhaps to craft more perfect purifiers, or perhaps for deeper purposes even we cannot fathom. Her gaze on Zhang Yi grew complex. Now do you understand? What you face isn't merely the external Drucker deities, but also the instincts and madness belonging to Drucker, buried deep within your own bloodline. How you balance, harness, and even transcend this bloodline may be the key to your survival and to finding the true answers. The sheer volume of information overwhelmed Zhang Yi, demanding time to process. Yet his gaze toward the forest's depths grew unwaveringly resolute. The path ahead remained shrouded in fog, but at least he now grasped a more fundamental truth about himself and the sixth generation. Understanding oneself is always the first step to conquering any foe. The truth Ling revealed sent ripples through Zhang Yi's heart that lingered long after. The murmurs within the shadow space gradually subsided. Each needed time to digest this earth-shattering secret concerning their very origins. Zhang Yi's mind raced, weaving together Ling's words, Samuel's whispers, and the scattered clues of the past. A clear chain of logic gradually formed in his mind. I understand. Zhang Yi murmured softly, his gaze sharp as a sword. The Creator chose to integrate into the Drucker people's genes when creating our sixth generation precisely because of their near-immortal, tenacious vitality. It's like grafting the most stubborn weed genes onto crops, hoping the new species retains the controllability of crops while possessing the survival power of weeds. He looked at his own hands, as if he could see through them to the secret buried deep within his genes. He needed a sword resilient enough to endure any ordeal, a sword capable of completing the near-impossible task of eradicating the Drucker people. For we inherited their tenacity in our very bones, making us impossible to utterly destroy. Yet his tone swiftly turned to bitter mockery, but the Creator clearly left a loophole. He gave us the soul of the Drucker, yet only a frail, inadequate shell. It's like driving ants to bite an elephant to death. Though small, ants might succeed by swarming together. But a single ant remains utterly powerless before an elephant. He both desires our success and fears that, having succeeded, we might become a more troublesome existence than the Druckers themselves, a new species possessing the Drucker's tenacity yet beyond his complete control. This realization once again thickened the atmosphere within shadow space. If this were true, their predicament was not merely dangerous, it was hopeless. They were risking their lives for an employer who both desired their victory and might personally destroy them afterward. An even more terrifying thought, like a cold venomous snake, coiled silently around Zhang Yi's heart. Then, once we ants have gnawed away at the Drucker people like a nail until they're completely gone, what will the Creator do with us once we've lost our usefulness? Will he simply let us be, or will he dispose of us like discarded tools? Most likely the latter, Zhang Yi concluded. The thought sent a chill down his spine. He shook his head forcefully, as if trying to expel this dark conjecture from his mind. It's too early to dwell on this now. Even if I guessed Kagago's true purpose, what good would it do without the power to resist? He told himself, his gaze hardening once more. The immediate priority is to survive and grow stronger. Only with sufficient power can we hold sway in any future upheaval. Otherwise, we won't even qualify as pawns. He gathered his focus, pulling his attention back to reality. The dark sun forest was fraught with danger, he couldn't afford to dwell long on future anxieties. Rest is over. Time to move. Brian perked up at the command, nose pressed to the ground, carefully discerning the faintest lingering sense in the air. This way. The scent of Fenggu and that blind girl is still here. Fainter, but the direction is correct. Chapter 2376, The Drucker Genetic Factor 3. The two humans and one dog continued their journey through the dim, eerie forest. The surroundings grew increasingly desolate. Twisted trees gradually gave way to jagged, grotesque rocks, and the ground hardened beneath their feet. Black stone pillars pierced the sky, while deep within the dark sun forest lay steep, rugged mountain paths, rising and falling, layer upon layer, as if they had entered a realm of towering, overlapping peaks. Fortunately, Brian led the way, otherwise, relying solely on their eyes, they would likely have gotten lost here. After traveling some distance, Brian suddenly halted, sniffing intently at a pile of blackened, unidentifiable blobs by the path. Woof! That's the scent, feces. Time, about 3 days old. Fatty Sue, residing within Zhang Yi's shadow, overheard Brian's words through the internal channel and couldn't resist his sharp tongue. Oh my, Master Brian, you'd better sniff carefully, it might be something good. But I'm warning you, no matter how curious you are, don't sneak a taste. Stuff in the dark sun forest might be cursed. Bullshit! Brian's hackles rose in fury. He turned and snarled at Zhang Yi's shadow. You think this master dog eats anything like you do? I only consume premium dog food specially prepared by Miss Yang Xia. I wouldn't touch this unknown crap even if it were free. Keep talking nonsense, and next time I take a piss, I'll rub it all over your pants. Come out and fight one-on-one. If you've got the guts, come over here. You'll see if I bite you or not. Fatty Sue, hidden in the shadows, wasn't intimidated at all. He shook his head with a smug, provoking grin. You hit me, I hit you, so what? It won't change your habits anyway. The sudden banter lightened the mood for everyone, easing the tense atmosphere considerably. Even Zhang Yi burst into laughter. Such harmless jokes were a welcome relief during the intense adventure. Excrement, huh? Whose is it? This was a crucial clue. Brian declared with absolute certainty, it's the young lady's. Upon hearing this, Zhang Yi silently crossed his arms. You seem a bit perverted. Woof woof woof, woof 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 woof. Brian jumped angrily from side to side, baring his teeth at Zhang Yi in clear displeasure. Hold on, you're the one who made me do this job, and now you're complaining about me. What's wrong with girls? Do girls not need to poop? This is a misunderstanding, prejudice. There's no toilet here. If she didn't relieve herself in the wild, was she supposed to hold it in forever? What if she got sick from holding it in? Brian reared up on his hind legs and lunged at Zhang Yi with both front paws. Zhang Yi quickly grabbed the attacking dog legs. All right, I get it. Just control your emotions and your appetite. Anyway, we've confirmed we're heading in the right direction, so let's keep going. Appetite? Brian froze for a moment before realizing Zhang Yi was talking about him. Furious, he barked woof 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 repeatedly. Finally, after Zhang Yi promised to create an ultra-realistic virtual dog girlfriend for him upon their return, Brian reluctantly agreed to keep working. Brian kept his head down the entire way, searching for the scent of Meteor and Fenggu. He declared triumphantly, ah, that's the scent. Perfect. After defecating, they didn't have proper cleaning conditions, so their bodies still carry fecal residue. Enough, just lead the way. Stop talking, you're making me sick. Woof 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 woof. Damn it, don't bite me. Watch your teeth, you'll chip them. After traveling a few more kilometers, the terrain began to rise. They arrived at the foot of a massive black mountain range. The mountain path was rugged, with only a narrow trail winding upward, flanked by steep black rock walls. At a relatively open bend in the trail, an unusual object blocked their way. It was a towering humanoid stone sculpture, carved entirely from the same black rock as the mountains. It stood silently in the middle of the path, as if it had been there for millennia. The carving was crude, barely recognizable as a knight clad in full armor, both hands gripping a massive cross-bladed sword. The face was indistinct, covered in thick dust. The statue appeared utterly abrupt, jarringly out of place with its surroundings. "Something's here." Brian immediately crouched low, letting out a warning growl. Yang Xinxin's eyes instantly sharpened as the shadowy form of the fallen angel puppet coalesced behind her. Zhang Yi raised a hand, signaling them to stay calm. His gaze grew intense as he scrutinized the statue, cross-referencing its features with database records. Fragments of intelligence gathered from Diaolan and Gucheng before their departure about the Dark Sun Forest flashed through his mind. The more he observed, the more the statue's likeness matched a figure in the records. The cross-shaped double-handed sword was the most telling detail. This was the former Knight Commander of the Dark Moon Empire, who had vanished into the Dark Sun Forest after the failed Imperial Rebellion. Just as he was cross-referencing the database, an abrupt change occurred. Crack. Crack crack. A faint yet distinct cracking sound emanated from the stone sculpture's surface. Thick layers of dust tumbled off the surface as spiderweb-like cracks rapidly spread across its entire form. "Back up." Zhang Yi spoke slowly, simultaneously deploying the everything-under-heaven defensive force field that instantly enveloped him, Yang Xinxin, and Brian. Under their watchful gazes, the black rock shell peeled away in large chunks, revealing its true form beneath, not stone, but black armor gleaming with a cold metallic sheen. Finally, all the stone shells fell away, revealing a real figure before them. Standing over 2 meters 50 tall, he was clad in ancient-looking, heavily scarred black armor. His helmet featured 2 backward-curving demon horns. Beneath the visor lay a deep, impenetrable darkness, pierced only by 2 flickering crimson points of light. The massive black crossblade in his hand shed its stone disguise, revealing a cold metallic blade pulsing with crimson energy like veins. A heavy, oppressive aura of death radiated from this figure, matching the intensity of the mad falcon they had encountered earlier. Zhang Yi's gaze sharpened with caution. Based on the Moon People's intelligence and this iconic figure before him, he was almost certain of the opponent's identity. Former Knight Commander of the Dark Moon Empire's rebellion. Inghui. Zhang Yi uttered the name in a low, guarded voice. The black-armored knight, Inghui, slowly raised his lowered head. The crimson eyes beneath his visor locked onto Zhang Yi. He did not respond immediately. Instead, he raised the massive crossblade in his hand slightly, its tip pointing directly at Zhang Yi and his 2 companions. The action itself served as the clearest declaration of war. A new, brutal battle seemed inevitable.